I have never had a message like this. I need to get something off my chest because I know I'm not the only one feeling this weight. Someone reached out to me last week and I sat there and couldn't move. Because it wasn't just a message, it was a confession. It was the kind of raw, unfiltered thing that someone only writes at 2 a.m. when they finally run out of ways to pretend they're okay. And what it described, the specific, devastating, completely disorienting experience of being punished for your own goodness. I have seen versions of it before, but never like this, never this clearly, never this painfully. And I thought, I have to talk about this because if one person felt it this deeply, 1,000 more are sitting with the same wound and no words for it. No. I'm speaking to the givers out there right now. The ones who always go the extra mile, the ones who pick up the phone when everyone else lets it ring, the ones who show up even when it costs them something real. This one is for you. So, here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. What you are about to hear is going to feel uncomfortable personal. It's going to name something that's been living in your chest for a long time without a name. And by the time we are done, you're going to understand the exact reason why the people you loved the most showed up for their hardest, gave the most of yourself to, why those are the exact people who end up hurting you the worst. Not strangers, not enemies, the ones you chose. Sometimes, and this is the wound that cuts the deepest, it's not just the ones you chose. It's the ones bound to you by blood. It's the family member who treats your empathy like a utility they don't have to pay for. It's the parent or sibling who drains your tank and then gaslights you into thinking your exhaustion is an overreaction. There is a specific cosmic injustice when the people who are supposed to be your safe harbor are the ones using your love to build a ship just for themselves. Have you ever felt like your kindness was treated like a weakness? Like you extended a hand and someone grabbed it, not to shake it, but to pull you down? Let me set the scene for you because I want this to land exactly right. Think about the last time you genuinely helped someone. Not in a small way, not covering someone's coffee or sending a referral email. I mean really helped. The 3 a.m. phone call where you stand on for 2 hours. The moment you put your own reputation on the line to vote for someone. The time you handed over your money you didn't really have because you could see they were drowning and you were not the kind of person who could just watch that. You gave them a seat at your table when they were starving. You remember it. You remember the weight of it, the cost of it, how it felt in your body to show up like that for another person. There was probably a moment, maybe right after, maybe weeks later, or where you felt this quiet, clean satisfaction, like you'd done something real, something that mattered, something that said, I'm the kind of person who shows up. And then something shifted. Maybe slowly, maybe all at once, but something shifted in the way that person looked at you, talked about you, talked to you. The warmth cooled, the calls got shorter and stopped completely. Or worse, the story started changing, the story of what happened, of what you did, of who you were in that moment. And suddenly, from their mouth, you were not the person who showed up. You were the person who had an agenda, who wanted to feel needed, who made it weird. They took your light to find their way and then left you in the dark. And you stood there with the full memory of what actually cost you. The sleep, the money, the emotional labor, the pieces of yourself you handed over, and you just couldn't make sense of it. It's a bitter pill to swallow when the hand you reached out to help is the same one that eventually stabs you in the back. That feeling right there, that specific, disorienting, almost nauseating confusion mixed with hurt. That's what this is about. And I know it hurts. I know it feels like an absolute injustice, because it is. Here's the thing that nobody tells you about help. And I mean real help, significant help, the kind that actually changes someone's situation. It doesn't just transfer a resource, it transfers a mirror. Let me explain. You were not just a helper to them, you were a mirror, and they didn't like the reflection they saw. The moment you step in and solve a problem that someone couldn't solve in their own, you hold up a reflection of something they were not ready to face. Their need, their vulnerability, the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And for a lot of people, most people honestly, that reflection is unbearable. Not because they are bad, no. Not because they are ungrateful by nature, no. But because every human being has this deep, almost cellular need to feel like the author of their own story. We want to believe we are capable. We want to believe we handle our problems. We want to believe we don't need rescuing. That's not arrogance. That's dignity. That's the fundamental architecture of a self. And when you swoop in and make the thing right that they couldn't make right, you don't just give them relief. You accidentally hand them evidence that their story about themselves is not entirely true. And that evidence doesn't sit quietly. It festers. Think about it from the inside. You are a person with some intelligence, some ambition, some pride. Of course, we all have pride. And you hit a rough patch. Maybe it's financial, maybe your career just stalled out, maybe your relationship fell apart and you stopped being able to function for a while. And someone, a friend, a family member, someone you respect, stepped stepped in and made it better. In the moment, it feels like a lifeline. It feels like oxygen when you were suffocating. But later, days or months later, this other thing starts creeping in. Not gratitude, something heavier. The slow downing awareness that someone saw you at your worst. Someone knows you needed help. Someone was capable in exactly the moment you were not. And that awareness doesn't just sit in the past. It sits inside every interaction you have with that person going forward. Every time you see them, something in your body remembers. And the ego, which is not stupid, just scared, starts looking for a way out of that discomfort. And the way out is to rewrite the story, to start finding reasons why the help wasn't really help, to build a case quietly and unconsciously that actually the giver was the problem all along. I know you're tired of being the strong one. I know you're tired of being the person everyone calls at 3 a.m. but no one checks on at 3 p.m. They treated your energy like a utility. They only notice it when the power goes out, never appreciating the greed that keeps everything running. That dynamic isn't just exhausting, it's dehumanizing. It turns you into a resource instead of a person. And you've felt that cold transactional energy even if you have never had the word for it. Let me give you the most vivid way I know to think about this. Because once you see it this way, you cannot unsee it. You are a lighthouse. You are standing firm on a rocky shore, and your whole purpose is to shine so that ships don't crash, so that people find their way home. One night, a ship comes through the worst storm it has ever seen. The waves are enormous, the visibility is zero, and your light cuts right through all of it. You guide that ship around the rocks. You save it. You give it everything you have, every bit of your light, every steady pulse through the darkness. And the ship reaches the calm harbor, safe, whole, because of you. And then a few weeks later, you hear what that ship has been saying around the harbor. That your light was too bright, that your rocks were too sharp, that the whole experience was uncomfortable, and honestly, they probably would have found their way without you. And you're standing there on your shore, still shining, still doing the exact same thing you have always done, and you are being criticized for it. That's the story. That's the mechanism. The ship doesn't resent you because you did something wrong. The ship resents you because every time it looks toward your shore, it remembers the storm. It remembers the moment it was lost. You are not the problem. You are the reminder. And some people will burn the whole lighthouse down rather than sit with the memory of the night they needed it. Let's be real. Sometimes people don't hate you. They hate the fact that you saw them when they were at their lowest. And that is the invisible humiliation of help that nobody talks about. You didn't just give them something practical. You gave them something that cannot be repaid. Cannot be repaid. And here is what makes it so gutting to experience from the outside. The unrepayable quality is exactly the thing that poisons it. When the debt is small, someone covers your coffee. Someone gives you a lift home. The reciprocity is easy. The ledger closed fast and the relationship stays clean. But when someone saves your actual life, your career, your financial survival, your mental health during the hardest year you've ever had, what's the exchange rate for that? What do you hand back across the table that makes that even? They wanted your fruit, but they didn't want to help you water the tree. There is no currency for what you gave. And so the debt sits heavy, permanent, and quietly corrosive. Because here is the cruel and very specific irony of human psychology. The larger the debt, the more unbearable the reminder of it. The mind will do almost anything to escape that feeling, even if anything means deciding that you were the villain all along. But here is the truth that no one tells you. Their betrayal is actually their confession. It's a confession of how deeply you mattered, of how much you gave, of how real the moment was. So real that they cannot afford to remember it honestly. When someone rewrites the story of your health, they are not telling you who you are. They are telling you who they haven't yet become. Your goodness didn't fail. Their character did. And I want you to hold that, not as an excuse to be bitter, not as a way to feel superior, but as a fact about human nature that protects you from spending one more minute questioning whether you were wrong to care. They didn't betray you because you did something wrong. They betrayed you because you saw them when they were weak. And they cannot forgive you for seeing the truth of who they are. That's not your burden to carry. It's their shadow to run from. I want to stay with this for a second because I know how much it hurts to hear. Because you probably did everything right. You helped from a genuinely good place. You didn't keep score, you didn't bring it up, you didn't hold it over anyone. And it still happened. The distance, the coldness, the rewriting of history. And somewhere in the wreckage of that, you started asking the worst possible question. Was it my fault? Should I have known better? Did I do something wrong that I'm still not seeing? And I want to say this as directly as I know how. Almost certainly not. You are not responsible for the psychological machinery inside someone else's ego. You didn't create the human tendency toward resentment. What happened to you is one of the oldest patterns in the human story. It happens to you not because you were foolish. It happens to you because you were generous. And generous people walk into this particular trap more than anyone else. Because they keep assuming the inside of someone else's experience looks like the inside of theirs. That's all. You are generous, really generous. Now, here is where this gets more interesting than just naming the wound. Once you actually understand the mechanism, not just feel it, but understand it, something in the way you move through the world has to shift. The question isn't whether to stop helping. The question is whether the help you give is the kind that creates dependency or the kind that creates capacity. There is a profound difference between solving the problem for someone and helping them discover they could have solved it themselves. One of those makes you indispensable and makes them smaller. The other makes you a catalyst and leaves them more capable than before. And only one of them ends in resentment. The help that doesn't create depth is the help that doesn't create dependency. That kind of help doesn't insult the other person's dignity, it expands it. And that's the version that gets honored. There are also some things that are just true about giving that most generous people never get told. And not knowing them costs years of confusion. Gratitude has a half-life. It fades, not because people are ungrateful by nature, but because the present always crowds out the past. If you are helping because you want to bank something you can draw on indefinitely, you will always end up feeling overdrawn. The moment you mention, even once, even casually, what you did for someone, you've turned a gift into a debt. Notice, debt notices do not produce warmth. If you gave it freely, you gave it period. And the hardest truth of all, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop recruiting someone from a difficulty from they actually needed to move through themselves. You're rescuing someone from a struggle that was building them is not generosity. It's a kind of control wearing caring's clothes. It's okay to close the door on people who only knock when they need something. That's not coldness. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. I need to say this part really clearly because I know so many of you are terrified that protecting yourself means losing your soul. You're asking, if I stop helping, am I still me? But if I keep helping, I will be destroyed. Listen to me. Your kindness isn't a gift you give to others. It's a frequency you live in. If they can't match that frequency, they will naturally try to break your radio. Don't let them change your station. You don't have to stop being a lighthouse. You just have to stop jumping into the water to save people who refuse to swim. Build a fence around your light. Set a boundary. That's not being mean. That's being wise. That's you deciding that your light is too valuable to be extinguished by people who just want to use you as a battery. Stop looking for an apology from a person who isn't even aware they have done you wrong. I know that's hard to hear. But that waiting that you're keeping for acknowledgement that may never come, it's costing you more than the original betrayal did. The closure you need isn't going to arrive in their words. It's going to arrive in your understanding. And your understanding is exactly what's deepening right now. Here's what I want you to take away. And I mean really take away, not just nod and forget. The people who receive what you give and honor it, those are people who have done enough internal work that they can look at their own vulnerability without needing to destroy the person who witnessed it. They can say thank you without their gratitude eating them alive. Those people exist, I swear. They are real, and they are who you are giving for. The others, the ones who rewrite the story, who find reasons to resent you, who turn your help into evidence of your flaws, those people are not broken. They are just not ready. They are dealing with something inside themselves that has nothing to do with you. And they are doing what people do when they can't face something uncomfortable. They redirect it outward. And you happen to be standing in the way. Understanding this doesn't make the betrayal stop hurting. I know that. Real pain doesn't care about intellectual frameworks, but it changes what the betrayal means. It stops being a verdict on your worth. It stops being evidence that kindness is for suckers. It becomes what it actually is, a data point about the human condition. And when you can hold it as that, something quieter and more durable takes the place of the hurt. You're not too much. You were just too much for someone who didn't have enough room in their heart for gratitude. You are not naive for having helped. You are not foolish for having been generous. You simply met one of the oldest, least discussed truths about being human. And now you see it. You cannot unsee it. Keep shining. The right ships will always know what your light is for. Keep shining.